Welcome to the Built on Solid Rock podcast. I'm John Chisholm. I'm here with my compadre, Sean Bowen. Sean, how's it going today?
Way amazing.
Way amazing.
Beautiful out, man. The weather, it's going to be 82 today. We got our Masters shirts on. Thank you to Nick Shank and the PDC crew out in Springfield, Mass. for hooking the boys up. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, those guys are awesome. He had quite the story. He had quite the story to tell about going out to the Masters, being a part of it at that exclusive club that he got to be a part of. It's just like, it's officially on my bucket list. I want to get out there. I mean, I do. I want to go walk. Before I can't walk anymore, I want to walk the grounds. It sounds pretty phenomenal.
Based on that, you've got about 6 months left then.
There is no doubt about that. So today, and we are sponsored today by Dean's Weens. They got some pretty cool announcement about that.
Can we break that announcement here officially? I'm looking at my guy. Can we break that? We can't yet. Soon enough, though, we will.
I could really have used a Dean's Weens this morning. I don't know about you. I'm pretty hungry. Okay. Well, anyway, so today. Last time you talked, we talked. From the last time we were here, you're like, "What are we going to talk about today?" Well, I'm a little bit of a planner, so I planned it out. So you handed this out a couple of weeks ago to our team. Yeah. What is hustle?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. So I grew up, as some of you may or may not know, my family owns a lumberyard in Colton, South Dakota. You know Uncle Kent, right? Uncle Kenny. So it's been in our family's business since 1957. My dad and my uncle bought it in the early 90s. And so I spent, part of my childhood, early adulthood working there. And they always had this clipboard with this really old piece of paper on it. And it was this thing right here. It's kind of I don't know what you call it, if it's a poem. I don't know what you've read this. I don't know. What do you call this? Is it a poem?
I wouldn't call it a poem. I would call it like a sage advice or.
Yes. Yeah, we can go. But it was always, this old wrinkled up piece of paper on a clipboard. And this is probably 15 years ago I first saw it. And I asked either my dad or my uncle, like, "Hey, where'd you guys get that?" Well, there was a really well-known lumber salesman who worked, wholesale side, because in the lumber business, you always have sales guys dropping by. And this guy, he's probably passed on now, but he gave it to my dad and my uncle. Who knows? That could have been 30 years ago. And so I've been recruiting it'll be 11 years at the end of May. And I've always, every couple years, I go back to this sage advice. You probably remember when we were over at our previous company, I would print this off every couple years, give it to you, maybe give it to a couple other of our compadres. And here's the thing about it is, like, you cannot find it on the internet, right? So like I had to get the original copy.
You can find pictures of.
No, you cannot. No,
I have
of this. No, there's ones. You can try and prove me wrong, but if this exact one, there are ones similar. But if this exact one, I have not been able to find anything. But we can chat about that later. So, but yeah, it's sage advice. It's called "What is Hustle," and I'm assuming that's part of what we're going to talk about today.
Well, sure. Here's the thing. So we talk about our 3 stones here at Solid Rock Recruiting, the three big ideas that we have here. And it's honesty, it's integrity, and hustle. Okay. And why do we have the word hustle in there? Because recruiting and sales is really all about urgency. It's really all about working with intention, working with discipline, working without distraction. It's like discipline over chaos. It's consistency over intensity. We're not talking about short bursts of energy. We're talking about consistency. So everybody says in the sales game, everybody says hustle harder. I mean, almost no one tells you what that means.
Correct.
And I think that this sage advice is awesome.
Yeah, I think it takes the word hustle and it articulates it really well and puts that into action of what does that actually look like, whether you're a recruiter or you're a homemaker.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, let's do this. So, I mean, what in your opinion? I mean, again, having this sage advice here, what in your opinion? I mean, where do people get hustle wrong? Where do they get it wrong?
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you and I obviously see this. I think where they get that wrong is, well, if I just work, I guess let's say if I just work harder or do more, that means hustle. Sometimes that may or may not be true, right? Sometimes hustle could just be like, well, I'm just going to work really hard to achieve this goal. Well, you should, but are you doing the correct work, right? Are you putting in the correct inputs?
Or are you just looking busy?
Or are you just looking busy? That's kind of where I'm going, right? Like, you and I have been in the recruiting world for so long, so it's easy for us to talk about that. But let's scale back to when I was working at my family lumberyard. Okay. Now we had a saying there that leaning time is cleaning time. Okay. Leaning time is cleaning time. Now there are different parts of the season in the lumber business where you're not that busy. Okay. I was probably, when I was younger, I was probably really good at looking busy, but I always probably wasn't doing the right thing. Maybe I was sweeping out this shop instead of putting that load together that needs to get out, in a couple days. So where people get it wrong is in a lot of parts. It's doing the wrong things with the right intensity, right? Maybe doing the right things with the wrong intensity.
Or the time, or even the timing. So we can any business that's out there. We're in the recruiting business, so we understand that really, really well. Any business that is out there can say that there's things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. Absolutely, positively, right? So, like in our business, we want to see people doing outbound contacts, but we want them to do the right outbound contacts. I mean, I remember a story back at the old company where a person, the requirement was 100 outbound phone calls a day. That's kind of like where you and I both started out at. But we actually heard about a person, you probably heard about the person that called Walmarts.
Yeah, I've heard it all. Walmarts,
Airports, whatever. And they called a bunch of numbers that meant nothing. So they spent their entire day on the phone just so that they can get the dials up, but they didn't talk to anybody of any consequence, right?
Yeah, that's the oldest trick in the book.
Yep. And I'd rather have someone call 10 people with intention and that make absolute sense than call 100 people with no intention, just a waste of time.
Well, and here's the thing, like in this, and at some point in time, we will read this and actually we'll probably post this out there, right? With this episode.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Hustle, part of hustle is actually customer service, right? So hustle is making the sale because you got there first or stayed with it after everyone else gave up. So in our world right now, and this, we've got a lot of companies that are relying on us, truly relying on us, that we work for the most part exclusively with, that are relying on us to go out there and fill those positions, right? Yep. So if we say we're going to do it and we're not working on it, that's not hustling. So
it's also not honesty.
It's also not honesty.
And it's not integrity.
Correct.
And that's what we want. I mean, we want from the top to the bottom. Our companies do rely on us, but we want from the top to the bottom, every one of our recruiters, we're a capitalistic company, right?
We are.
So the thing is our recruiters are 100% commission. In essence, that's what they are. That's where they make a lion's share of their money. So it's integrity to put in integrity and hustle to put in a good day's work, so that we don't want them being confusing themselves with being busy with being productive. Right? We want them to be productive, not just busy. So what does that look like? How can you put numbers on it, or how can you can't? Okay, hustle is kind of like a term that's kind of, it's out there. But what we're trying to do with this sage advice is we're trying to put it into a solid picture,
right, and put it on the right path, right,
right, on a direct path. So an example in a business might be, like you said, leaning time is cleaning time. I mean, Uncle Kenny has told me a number of stories about what you would do when you were quote unquote leaning, right? back in the day.
Oh yeah, back in the day, yeah.
So, but what is it? I mean, what does real hustle in your mind? If you could articulate it, and this might be difficult. If you could articulate it, what does hustle look like in the day-to-day of a business?
See, that's the thing. I don't have to come up with anything new. So hustle is doing something that everyone is absolutely certain can't be done. We could just pause there. Hustle is making a sale because you got there first or stayed with it after everyone else gave up. And then it keeps going on. Hustle is being the sorest loser in town. Hustle is hating to take vacation because you miss you might miss a piece of the action. I mean, there's so much more in this. So I think each line, right, kind of like a verse, each line is like a verse, or every 2 lines is a verse that articulates it. Because hustle isn't just working hard. Because I think when we hear hustle, or the general public hears hustle, yeah, it's working hard. I'm going to run faster. Okay. Well, I want to run faster towards whatever goal I'm set out, to take on. Right. And it's not just in our world picking up the phone more. It could be utilizing all of the other tools and resources effectively. Right. And then that carries over into the honest communication with our clients. Hey, we are working on this. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to speak for it yet, right? We've talked to the 20 candidates in this market. We've hit them. Here's what we've done. We've sent LinkedIn messages. We've sent text messages. We've called. We've sent emails. We've been on Indeed. We've been on the job boards. We're hustling. We're doing all the right things, but it's going to take time. So that's where the hustle bleeds over into honesty, or hustle's much more than just.
But it's also creativity and not making excuses.
Not making excuses.
That's the whole big.
Correct.
That's the whole big thing about it. I mean, and here's the thing. It also involves a lot of. It has to come from within. The drive has to come from within. There has to be a why at the end of the rainbow to say, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're motivated. We like to hire people that have a good why because reality is that in this business, you can make a lot of money, but this business also really, really is terrible if you don't have a reason. If you don't have a reason to come to work every day, jump out of bed every morning. And this, that all builds into this. So I mean, here's the thing. You can talk yourself into being really, really motivated, really, really hyped up. But why does motivation fail long term? And why, I mean, and really does it? Why does relying on motivation or being motivated on a day-to-day basis fail long term?
That's a great question. I can only speak from my own experience. I mean, and I've never really read any books on motivation. And I'm not one of those people who needs to be motivated all the time. There's times where, motivation comes and goes, right? But the why, and I think you bring up a good point. There has to be, in anything in life, not just in our business, but in anything in life, even with marriage, right? I mean, whether you're dating, you're not just dating somebody just so you can buy a house and have kids because you have a view of the American dream. All of those things are great things, right? But there has to be this, however we can articulate it the best, we call it the why. Because a motivation to me in our world is all right, I want to get 3 interviews lined up this week. Okay, well, what happens when that doesn't happen, right? If that is your pure motivation, that is your goal, and what happens if that doesn't happen? Are you just going to have the your the wind sucked out of your sails, right? Or is the motivation hey, I want to, a lot of people that work for us kind of have the same goal. Not everybody, a lot of people are hey, I want my significant other to stay home and raise our kids. Okay. And so that is a much more long-term why. And there's motivation built into that, right? To produce and do your job. And so why does motivation fail? Well, if the motivation fails, then we have to scale back. We have to dig deeper and say, okay, why did you even start on this process in the beginning? You know what I mean? That's not to say that we can't be motivated on short-term goals. We should be. We should be 100%.
Right. But we're talking about building up consistency. I think being persistent and being consistent are 2 tools that we need to have in our toolbox as recruiters, as salespeople, right? We can talk about salespeople. We say we're recruiters, not salespeople. We don't want to be.
We're all of the above.
Everybody.
You've said, oh, we're not recruiters. We're not recruiters. We're headhunters. No, we're all the above. Yeah, we are.
We're all the above, right? But the bottom line is we use sales in everyday life, right? Tommy want weenie.
Yeah, exactly. Tommy want Dean weenie.
right. Yeah, the Deanie weenie. Yeah.
Yeah.
How can we get one of those? All right. So.
Hey, we have to market them one more time at our podcast, right?
At some point,
to fulfill the contract. Okay, just making sure.
So consistency is the key here. So what does that winning daily process look like? I mean, we can talk about it again in recruiting, but a daily process, what does that look like? And I think it looks different for everybody, but I think process and consistency is really, really important. Like we say, you've got to make X number of phone calls every single day consistently, day in and day out. But what does that look like? What does that truly look like to bring it around to hustle?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like just picking up the phone and making 60 calls or 100, whatever, or going and knocking on 20 doors, right? Like I said, I know I don't run a desk so much right now, but if I do, I might make 5 or 10 calls on a very specific job. But there's a when I get on the phone with somebody, there's about a 70% chance I'm going to engage with them in a positive conversation. Okay? Because there's something internally inside me that is like, no, dude, this is a phenomenal opportunity. And I know that you're not looking right now. Okay? I get that, but just hear me out. Okay? So there's something within inside of that activity, right? That activity, whether it's the calls or the messages or the knocking on doors, whatever you're doing, there has to be something internally. Like I know this, and you probably hear me come in the office sometimes in the mornings. Like I do have a burden on me. You probably do too. I lose sleep when we're not filling positions for, especially our really, really good clients that are relying on. Like I lose sleep, not because I know that we have $1 million sitting out there to produce. That's great. But I lose sleep because I know that we can fill these, and I know that we have to fill these in order for our clients to be successful. Okay. And so part of that passion is when I'm engaging in whatever activity.
And not just our clients, right? Each of our individual recruiters. We know, and sometimes I think as business owners, we take it so seriously. We take it so hard. I don't lose sleep because I'm worried about it. Because I know it can be done. I know we're going to get it done. I have that resiliency.
But we want it done now.
And we want it done. And I also lose sleep when I think we're not doing it as well as we can do. Right? When we're not hitting it 100% of the time, I lose sleep about that. And so for me, my process and my consistency is all about doing the same thing at the same time every single day. And it's something that I developed at the last company after I got knocked down for months and months. And so I found a pattern that I had to follow on a daily basis that I do every single day, which keeps my pipeline full. And we talk about this, chopping wood and carrying water. I have a full pile of wood right now. I got a full pile, but whenever I throw a piece of wood into that fire, I got to replace that piece of wood. And so that's what kind of drives me. I want to be first. I want to be first to every single candidate. I want to be first to every single job order that's out there. I want to be the first one that gets to that person and gets in front of that potential company. I want to be that person. I want to win the race. I've got that chip on my shoulder. That's what kind of drives me to stay consistent. And that consistency breeds, for me, motivation. So, how did you learn discipline? I mean, how did you get to the point where you are right now as far as being disciplined in your process?
Yeah, I mean, my discipline looks a lot different than most people. I'm not a super process oriented guy. Never have been. I've tried to be, and I'm just not. But I'm a get crap done kind of guy. I mean, you've worked with me for 9 years at this point. So I'm not very process oriented, but I'm very goal oriented. And what does that look like? Well, where the discipline comes in is very simple for me in my mind. This is how I articulate it. I've got a company that has a need, and they have a need because you and I both know this companies hire people for 2 reasons: to make money or save money. Okay. And so for me, the discipline comes into just like, it's very obvious to me. We have a company that has a need. They're ready to rock and roll. They're great to work with. And we have to fill that position. So I have to be disciplined. Now, my processes in getting that are going to look different, but so I'm not like, okay, at every morning at this time, I'm doing this. I have some of those things that I've done for years, but how did I become disciplined? Well, I think to excel at anything, like I said, I don't care if it's running a business, running a desk, I look at my wife as an example. She's a homemaker, and every single morning, and she's very process oriented, every single morning, she puts in a load of laundry. Every single morning. That's how I know when she's up, because I'm up well before her, and I know when she's up because I know the sound of the dryer and I know the sound of the washer.
When you got 3 little kids at home, you got to run that laundry every single day.
Yeah, and the washer was broke the last couple of days, so we had to get that fixed. But so I think just to excel at anything, there has to be some level of discipline, but it's a matter of, it's going to look different for everybody.
I think I would agree absolutely. So, so the next question with hustle is, because hustle is hustle, again, this is so fantastic, but how can hustle turn into burnout?
Well, it can if you're, as we've talked about, if you're doing the wrong things, right? If you're doing the wrong things. So you might have a false sense of hustle, right? You might have a false feeling of hustle. And I think anybody in sales or in recruiting experiences that.
Well, let me give you an example here. I'm going to take it off of here. It says, hustle is hating to take a vacation because you might miss a piece of the action. They call it, nowadays the kids call it FOMO, fear of missing out, right? And so I experienced that a lot. When I started out in the recruiting business, I literally, it drove my wife crazy, and it was a fight that we were in, because I would go on vacation and I would be out there recruiting because I love it. And I don't, but see, that's where that chip on my shoulder was so massive, because someone beat me to the punch, and I hated that. But there is a balance in hustle. And that's what we're talking about when we say hustle, because I believe hustle is consistency, doing consistent right actions on a regular basis, consistently through a period of time, is going to build that pipeline, is going to build that thing so much so that you can actually take a vacation and not worry about missing out. But it's also about building a team around you that has that same motivation that you do. So that as a business owner, when I go, I'm leaving for 10 days.
You are? You haven't told me that.
Yeah, I'm leaving for 10 days.
10 days. Yeah.
As a business owner, I know that when I'm gone for 10 days, I don't have to bring a phone with me. I don't have to bring a computer with me.
Do you want my burner phone?
I do want your burner phone. But and you did that yourself. But you know that when you leave for a month or so, when the blessed event arrives, that I'm going to be here on a day-to-day basis, backing you up, so that you don't have to worry about that.
Well, no, you've got a good point. I think the other thing gets back to discipline though as well. Like a hustler, a true hustler is going to know when they have to go fill up the tank.
Yes.
Okay. And there's discipline in that too.
Exactly.
Especially in a job like this, like you have to know. And we've got some of these new guys that are doing really well. They've been doing it. Tyler and Jake, 2 top billers. This is only their second. They just are hitting year number 2, and they're starting to figure out that balance, right? Because there is a balance there. They're starting to have that discipline. Like, I can't do everything. It's okay, bro. Like, take a break, man. Go golf. Go on. Go wherever. Go to Nashville. And so also a true hustler who's been doing it for a period of time is also going to have the discipline to say, you know what, like, I'm going to step away for a little bit. But what happens when they come back, it's like, man, it's like you just took like this dying flower that was just holding on, and you put some, you put some
fertilizer or whatever,
fertilizer on it and water and some sunshine, and it just keeps growing, right? So it's all of those things, right? It's the consistency, the persistency, it's the building the culture around you, right? Like imputing that attitude to the people around you. And then it's also having the discipline, not just in your day-to-day systems or processes, but also knowing that's probably the only part of that thing that I don't like on that one is on the vacation part, right? Because it says hustle is hating to take vacation because you might miss a piece of the action. And that's honestly the only part of this that I have a philosophical issue with. Now, I think that you and I can exposit it.
I can resonate on it.
I can resonate, but I think we can also bring context to it, right?
Right. So like, I don't hate to take a vacation.
We used to.
And I still have that, I still have that wonder in the back of my mind, is everything getting done? But that's also pride.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yes.
Pride. And
nothing's going to happen unless if I'm involved.
Nothing's going to get done. Nothing's going to get, and it's not trust. And it goes into the culture, right? The culture of that. That's where micromanagement comes from. right? Is the belief that nobody can do it nobody can do it as well as I can do it.
Well, and I think I want to hop on that. I think I want to hop on that part is like, we've been doing this for about 2.5 years now, just actually not quite 2.5 years. And one of the hardest parts for us was like giving up our clients, right? Because a lot of our clients followed us. And in addition to that, we also built up new clients while we were, every day running a desk. But we didn't want this company to be built just on our efforts. And we very well could have just said, you know what, we're going to hold on to everything. And we did. We held on to some things for too long.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But we did learn our lesson with that. But there was pride there, right? Like there was pride like, oh, no one's going to do it as good as us. No one's going to be able to have the type of attitude. But we made, I would say, that was a risk, right? That's going to have a long-term reward with that, and already has had a reward with that. Because you and I both know that these door guys, for example, are doing much better than us, right? In terms of managing and doing those things. We have another division. But there was a moment where we had to say, you know what? We're going to teach our guys how to do this, right? We want to see them succeed more than ourselves, okay? And there's hustle involved into that. There's integrity involved in it because there's honesty. Like, no, we really don't have the time to really manage this client. And we've had to, I don't know about you, but I know I've had to make some calls like, hey, whatever, John Doe, I really love working with you guys. I just don't have the time and effort to
run a business and
to run the business and do these things. So Ryan's going to be your new point of contact.
So I mean, and that is a big thing. But what I wanted to get to too, as far as the vacation though, as far as the pride goes and everything like that, that also builds into the culture, right? So you make promises as a business owner. We make,
I try not to make promises.
Since we're commission based, we don't say, okay, you've got 10 days of PTO, but we talk to people all the time that the culture is such that they feel guilty. They've got 10 weeks of vacation stacked up. If the company allowed them to take 10 weeks of vacation, it's promised to them. The PTO is promised to them, but they're not allowed to take it. They're made to feel guilty for taking it, and that is a huge culture destroyer in my mind. Because when you make promises, a promise is a vacation. That means that for me, when I walk in and I say it's a vacation, if I've got 12 days of vacation built up and I want to take 10 of those, I feel like I ought to be able to take 10 of those wherever I'm at. Now, of course, I'm going to hand off my project to somebody else. They're going to know all about my project, but I ought to be able to do that. And I ought to be able to trust and have a culture built in such a way that they're going to take that with the same seriousness that I take it, right? So that's the biggest thing. So now, this is a big question for you, and we've seen it happen a couple times in the business. How do you reset without losing that momentum?
Yeah, that's a great, I've been doing this. I'm the longest tenured recruiter here, and I'll never let anybody forget that. And so I've been doing this for 11 years. That is, not kidding you, dude. Think about this, John. That's 1/3 of my life. Okay, dude, that's 1/3 of my life.
Yeah, that's.
I'm 33.
Yeah, it's not much. It's not much of my life.
Yeah, no, it's not. And so the way that I reset is a little probably similar to most people. I've got a growing family, so vacations are kind of whatever. But I've got my hobbies. There's days where you're probably like, where'd Sean go for a few hours? Well, I'm probably right now. It's purple martin season, so as you know, I'm a big purple martin landlord. If you don't know what they are, check them out. They're the most amazing backyard bird. And I just, for whatever reason, the way that God designed me, I just have an infatuation with them. And I literally, it just brings so much peace to me. And so the way I reset is I'm kind of like those guys. Like I kind of like drive a motorcycle, so I can go about 100 miles on a tank. And then it takes me like 3 gallons of gas to fill up, so like I don't need these big things. Sometimes I do, but the way that I refill, I don't know. I like working. I like, I'll tell you what fills me up is when we make placements. Yeah. I don't know, like when
that's with any salesperson.
Yeah. Like when I see like people are producing and doing well, that really fills my tank, right? Like That's like the 15-minute Tesla charger.
Right. But see, that motivation lasts about five.
Are we sponsored by Tesla?
No, we're not sponsored by Tesla, but that motivation lasts for about 5 minutes, because if you're a real recruiter, a real headhunter, you want to go on. We always say this. I mean, what's the best thing to do after making a placement? Go and make another one, right? That's the best thing to do. So, I mean, when you go on vacation, or if you go on vacation, coming back to a pile of paper, so to speak, and all these things, how do you reset? I mean, how do you get that momentum moving back forward again?
I don't know. I don't even dude, I've been doing this for more than a decade. So like, it's not even like a process in my mind that I have to think about.
You just hop back in.
I just hop back in, and I'm sure that there's more to it than that, but there's companies that need us, and there's people that need us. And so that for me is just enough to kind of get
going,
to really get after it. It's like, all right, guys.
I think the biggest thing is that you love what you do. I mean, I literally hop out of bed every morning because I get to come.
Yeah, it's great, dude. I love coming to work, man.
I get to come and recruit, right? I get to come hang out with the guys, recruit, get some placements made, get some money made. So to close, if someone feels stuck right now, whether it be one of your recruiters downstairs or somebody in business right now, if they feel stuck right now, what's the first thing that they should change tomorrow?
Well, I think that they need to go back to their why. We have conversations with our recruiters, and they lose motivation or whatever, or sometimes they're really motivated. But I think the question is like, why did you decide to go on the path that you're on right now? Right? You have to, and sometimes they have to be reminded, and they have to remind themselves. It's no different than like a candidate who we've been working with, we're getting an offer, and it's everything that candidate's looking for. I mean, literally everything and more. And they're like a little bit hesitant. And it's like, wait a minute, why did we even start this process? Right? And so I think for whatever it is, like, why, you have to go back to that, and you have to dig in deep and figure out, why are we here? What are we doing? And this sounds kind of cliche, but I think you have to get to the core of that. And they might say, well, I hate what I'm doing. Well, why? Because of this. All right, well, maybe you need to make a career change, or maybe you need to do something else, right? Which is okay.
And the thing too is that we also can go to the Bible and to something that you've said many, many times. We just need to go back to your first love, right? You need to go back to what you did at first. You tell people this all the time, right? You say, look, sometimes I just have to go back to the basics.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I just have to I have to figure it out. What did I do when I was being successful?
Yeah. So you typically see that with people who are successful early on, and they have 1, 2, 3 good years, whatever. Even people who've been doing this for 6 years, like, all right, you have to go in your mind and on your desk. You have to say, okay, what was I doing like the first 6 months or 7 months I was here? Or anywhere, right? Like in a recruiting context. And so, yeah, you do have to go back to, you have to be able to go back there in your mind to say, okay, I was doing this level of activity that led to the success I've had. Now I've had a couple dry months, right? I've had a couple bad months. It's okay. But you have to go back and start that hustle again. And maybe that hustle,
and focused in specific areas. Like,
yeah, that's very important.
You don't want to take your foot off the gas too much. Sometimes you're really, really going, you're really, really rolling. You kind of take your foot off I'm feeling good. I can take my foot off the gas. You got to go back to those things that got you there.
Correct.
You have to go back consistently and persistently.
And that's part of hustle, right? Like, part of hustle is being able to shift at the right time.
At the right time.
Right? Because if you're driving a car really fast, and all of a sudden you come to a turn, you have to be able to shift and make the right decision to make that turn, whatever, analogy you want to use. But a true hustler is going to have the mental capacity, right, to review what's going on, or they might need someone to come alongside of them. But a true hustler is going to be able to readjust, to make shifts, to say, okay, I was doing that led to this. I've been doing this. It's not working out. Okay, well, the logic would tell you that I should just go back and do that. And that's where the consistency, the persistency, the discipline.
It's like, and we'll close with this. It's like Rocky Balboa said, it doesn't matter, kid, how hard you get hit. It matters how hard you can get hit and get back up.
Get back up. Yep.
Maybe I misquoted that.
Well, maybe you didn't though.
Well, maybe I didn't.
Right? But you deliver it with passion
Yeah.
and with confidence, which is also part of hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been Built on Solid Rock podcast with my compadre Sean Bowen. I'm John Chisholm. Come back for the next one.
We only got 2 Dean's Wings in there.